Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 27th community meeting. My name is Chris Dane. I'm the community manager for the OpenSearch project. Let's go through a couple of little etiquette pieces today before we get going. Introduce yourself when you're ready to speak. It's just polite. Let's stay on mute unless we're actively talking. Cameras are optional, of course. You don't have to come on camera if you're not comfortable with that. We keep disruptive folks away. You can ask questions at any time. Presenter's choice, of course. We've turned off screen annotations. Profiles will only show names. Certain pieces you can read here that really just keep the spamming down to a minimum. We haven't had that any problems for quite a while, and we like keeping it that way. Let's get right into it. First off, we have some 2.12 announcements and kind of an overview that James McIntyre will give us this morning. And that was an exciting release that just happened. A lot of new features in this. And then if anyone's going to be in Berlin next week, come by the booth. We're going to have, it's the first time that Plain Shores is offering booths at Fossback Stage, and we're lucky enough to have grabbed one. So we'd love to give you a talk, give you a t-shirt while you're over there. Come hang out in Berlin with us. Let's get right into 2.12. I'll hand the reins over to my friend James here.
Thanks, Chris. I'm James McIntyre, product marketing for the OpenSearch project. And as Chris mentioned, we just released OpenSearch 2.12 last Tuesday, the 20th. This release has a lot in it. I'll try to give a quick high-level overview of some of the new and exciting features. So from a production-ready standpoint, some of the new features include Apache Spark integration that we know a lot of folks have been excited about. That lets you analyze all of your operational data in a single place using OpenSearch in combination with Spark. This release also includes a number of upgrades that are aimed at delivering improved performance and efficiency, particularly with regard to search and analytics applications. That includes concurrent segment search, so you can query index segments in parallel at the shard level. Date histogram aggregations without sub-aggregations can now be transformed into and executed as range filters. We did some testing on this that's posted in the GitHub issue for this feature that showed 10 to 50x speed boost on the NYC taxis benchmark. Multi-terms aggregations are now quite a bit faster for high cardinality search terms, which means improved performance for a lot of prefix and wildcard queries. There's a new match-only text type field, which helps reduce storage costs while maintaining query performance for term and multi-term queries. There's also a keyword ability for keyword, numeric, and IP field types to be searched with doc values queries. That's going to decrease storage requirements for those rarely accessed fields. And we also upgraded OpenSearch to Lucene 9.9 with this release, which introduces a lot of efficiency enhancements for a range of search queries. Speaking of performance, there's a new top-in queries feature that lets you track and those high latency queries via an API, so you can hunt those down more easily. And then there are also a lot of additions to the machine learning toolkit. Conversational search is now generally available, which provides a comprehensive set of tools to build those conversational experiences using lexical, vector, and hybrid search features. To reduce the effort required to build AI connectors, we have been providing default pre and post processors for data exchange between text embeddings and the neural search plugin. In this release, we introduced default processors for Amazon Bedrock. Uh, we also introduced built-in chunking through nested vector fields, which eliminates the need to build custom processing logic in order to query documents that are represented as vector chunks. And then a few experimental features that are disabled by default, not recommended for production workloads, but they're there for folks to explore and potentially contribute to. That includes the OpenSearch Assistant Toolkit. We introduced that in November. This is now available within a release for the first time with 2.12. That helps developers build generative AI experiences inside of OpenSearch dashboards and extract insights from OpenSearch data using integrated NLP and context-aware features. We also added a new agent framework to ML Commons. That lets you use remote LLMs for problem solving and can coordinate machine learning tools using LLMs within OpenSearch. We also added a new workflow engine that lets you automate the heavy lifting involved with configuring ML Commons resources. You can set up your ML resources to support AI use cases without having to manually create those resources or write custom scripts. We also have introduced as an experimental feature cross-cluster monitoring. So you can query multiple clusters from a single place through the alerting plugin. And there's more about this and other features if you want to read about them on our blog. I will drop a link to that into the chat. But yeah, that's a high-level look at what's new with 2.12. So we invite everyone to go check that out and let us know what else you'd like to see.
Thanks, James. Anyone have any questions for that? Nate Boot, our wonderful DA, is here as well. We can probably answer some questions, although this is brand new stuff. I don't know how much time he's had to play with the features, but if you have questions along the way, please feel free. Let's get into today's agenda. We have our friend Eric Pugh here from Open Source Connections to go over what was user behavior. What was it before, Eric? What was the working name?
User behavior logging.
All right.
Let me grab
Now,
my screen.
now it's user behavior insights, thanks to a wonderful vote from our fabulous community. Here we go.
So, hey all. Right, you guys saw the other week, right? We needed to come up with a new name. We actually did some voting, right? It was great to get a bunch of votes. These were our candidates that we kind of finished. And it was pretty clear. User behavior insights. I think the community likes sort of the alliteration of query insights, user behavior insights. I think that was popular. And so, yeah, thank you to everybody who participated. It was a pretty overwhelming majority that said user behavior insights. So great, yay. So now comes maybe some real work. So I'm going to do a quick show and tell of the user behavior insights plugin as of sort of last week. We have a more polished version, but I haven't practiced that one at all. So you guys are going to get to see the slightly rough one, but I did want to show some actual code since we had people are here. Unlike some of the other community meetups where the presenters have sort of had a very practiced and ready demo, this is sort of where we are in progress, right? So feel free to ask questions. You're going to watch me fumble a little bit through my demo because I haven't given it as many times as my colleagues Jason or Jeff have. Jason, you're here, right? So as I run into questions and things or people, you're going to help me out, right?
Yes, moral support is here.
Excellent, excellent. So, Stavros, feel free to chime in as well. So, all right. So we currently have a GitHub repository, OpenSearch-UBI, User Behavior Insights. And that's under the O19S domain, but will very soon be under the OpenSearch project itself. And we wanted to have a demo of, okay, what does gathering events that start on the client side, correlating them with things that maybe you could gather by monitoring on the server side look like? And some of you all in the community may have heard of this Chorus project. It was one that myself, Renee Kriegler, a couple other people put together about 4 years ago, sort of during the pandemic. Is that 4 years ago, 3 years ago? And it's sort of a reference implementation of e-commerce search, right? And so we've kind of used it on a number of different open source search engines, and we have a OpenSearch version of it. And so we said, okay, let's go ahead and use that to demonstrate what this sort of user behavior insights is all about. Now, what I'm going to show you today is basically the first part of the problem, which is, can we collect some events on the client side and store them in our OpenSearch? And so that's what I'm going to show you today. And then in one of these community meetups coming soon, we'll actually show some of the dashboards and reporting that we're starting to look at. But for today, I'm just going to kind of show that we have some working code. Okay. And so you are welcome to go to this repository and check it out. It is a Docker-based build with a quick start script that you run that loads the data. So this slightly rough UI here is our e-commerce store with at the top a list of sort of, these are events that we're pulling out of our OpenSearch cluster. So, and this is, uses the IceCat data set, which some of you may be familiar with. It's sort of a slightly older e-commerce, kind of think like a Best Buy or some other website. And so, imagine that I'm Alice and I'm interested in searching for a projector because I need to buy a new projector. So I'm doing some search and I searched for projectors. But these aren't projectors, right? For those of you who do a lot in the search and relevance, you might be very familiar with the classic accessories problem, where you search for a product, and instead of getting that product back, you get back lots of accessories. And in our case, the reason we get so many accessories back is because we mostly have accessories for projectors and very few actual projectors. Here is an example. Our first projector isn't until, rank number, 9, right? So Alice says, well, I'm not interested in projector parts. I'm looking for a portable projector. Classic, right? Click a facet, and there's an example of it. Okay. So what all happened while we were doing that? So we have some basic JavaScript wiring, right? Every client is a little bit different. Every team building their front end is going to, have their own sort of infrastructure. Maybe we're not even gathering events from a web page. Maybe it's an Android or an iPhone app or, some sort of other type of system. So we've potentially gone with a very flexible, open, you kind of do the hooks and wiring to gather events. And as you can see here, right, we have different events that are being gathered, right? So here is when I filtered down, I think that message there is a bunch of JSON, was when I filtered down on the portable projector. And we're gathering just a bunch of events in the console, okay? We're able to gather almost any event but we're not trying to duplicate a Google Analytics or a Snowflake or some of those other tools. We're aiming at gathering sort of the events that people who are trying to optimize for search are doing, but we do have a very flexible data structure. And maybe in a future community meetup, Jason can kind of walk you through some of what that schema looks like. So we see events, we're gathering stuff on the front end. All right, I'm going to bring up there's my trusty curl. So on the back end, we have two indexes that we're using. One for queries. So there you can see I'm getting back, my queries, right? So here is an example. And you can see we got a fair amount of mocked up stuff, but somebody did a query. We're storing sort of the raw query that we sent to OpenSearch. And I did a query. And if I dig in here, somewhere in here is the actual query text that I searched for. Kind of digging around. This might have been an all query. And then the actual documents that were being returned are getting stored in our log queries. So we have this event collection, and then we have the related events. As you can see, here are a whole bunch of different events, and we have a pretty wide open data structure. Event attributes, right now we're calling it data, and everything sort of fits in underneath this. I don't know, Jason, anything else you want to say on sort of this this schema that we're using right now?
Yeah, I guess the only reason that it really exists is so that we can do things like facets on the action names and so forth, and making sure that we can control that. But the rest is left open and dynamic, so a client can stuff anything they want into it.
Mm-hmm. And so that lets us start collecting things like if there is A/B testing or specific configuration things on the client side, we can grab them. So we've got these here. And then if we're feeling ambitious, and I don't know if we're feeling this ambitious, do we want to try and go write a dashboard query, Jason?
If
Jeffrey's
you
here or
want,
someone else. All right. Let me give a pause real quick. Make sure I've got the right URL. So I'm going to rely on the rest of the community to help me write this out as well. Port 5601 / checking my demo script real quick. Yeah. So we have a demo script for people who want to follow along as well that shows some of these queries. So there's all of our events. And then we can grab our events. So all of this is still just documents in OpenSearch. So we can use all of our standard OpenSearch capabilities. And and I'm going to need a little help from the community because I'm not good at this one. Is this my dashboards? There it is. So there's my events and my queries, right? And then, and I made this a little too big to zoom in. So I should be able to do select star from right. So we're there we can start grabbing some of this data. And one of our goals as a project is to store the data in a format that doesn't require a ton of post-processing for other people to consume. So we are going to figure out, our next step is sort of connecting the queries with the logged events. So you can kind of track a user's journey through their search, provide some default dashboards that might be, hey, here's some SQL that you can run to kind of gather some insights, or we may go down a more rich sort of proper dashboard with all the graphics and things. That kind of remains to be seen. There are definitely some canned dashboards that we're going to be pulling out. Here are some of the examples of what we think some basic dashboards, trending searches, queries, sorted by cart value, like what queries drive the highest cart value or not. And then, here's some other examples of queries. So our goal is to start making some of these actually part of the project. But kind of what I wanted to show you today is that we're gathering the events as you interact with different, different aspects here. We're gathering those events, things happen in here, and they eventually show up inside OpenSearch. Okay, I'll pause there. Questions, comments?
Hey, this is Lukasz from Even. I would like to ask something about the events, but maybe we will get into quite a detail. So I'm not sure if right now is the time to ask about that. Maybe we can leave it for the end of the presentation. I don't know.
Chris, I'm happy to kind of talk about it. This was not a particularly formalized presentation. So as I told Chris, I was like, I'm going to show the work that we're doing as of last Friday. So yeah, that was, I think, a fine time to ask your question.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I noticed you said that the format of the attributes is very flexible. So what does it mean? I mean, there is no schema or mapping of that.
So let me address that if I could. So the philosophy here is that we want to be completely open-ended, but we don't want to be we want to have an opinion on things that everyone wants. So there are certain fields that whose semantics are essentially defined by us, and which, if they're not exactly required, but they're strongly recommended that you use them. And then others, it's a name value pair thing where you can add any additional information you want. So in particular, once you use the fields that we define, that means that all of our analytics work that Eric mentioned will just work. You won't have to do anything for mappings or anything like that. You just say, okay, I want to see this event type. I want to see this, how this query is acted on, and so on. So that's the idea here, that the basics, which let you do the kinds of queries that everyone cares about, are well defined. Other fields are also well defined, but not at all required. They're optional, but they're defined so that we can know exactly what it means. And then others, you can add whatever you want. Does that make sense?
Well, if you add your custom fields, it means it really propagates to the index mapping, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is what I was interested in, because in that case, it means that, okay, from that point, you really need to stick with that field name and its type, something like that, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think there's an inherent tension in this project that's been really interesting to see between the more highly structured the events are that we capture and what they look like, the easier it is to make really powerful visualizations and dashboards out of the box, but also the more limited it is, right? We talk to different potential users who are like, what about browsing activity? We'd like to track some browsing activity. So there's definitely been some discussion. But as an example of one thing that came out, right? Right now, we store everything, the raw query, in the query. And you can dig around in here and find what the user typed in. But it very quickly became clear to us that people who are going to be using this data want to know what the user typed in, right? And so we need to maybe make that an attribute of this document that's at the top level, so for ease of use, right? And so that
Well, I would actually, sorry, Eric,
It-
to contradict you, but I think that in general, you can't reverse engineer the user query from the OpenSearch query, because there may be query understanding steps. There may be,
right. Well, there's all of that as well, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And Eric, the actual query string is what's stored in the events index.
Right. Right. You're right. You're right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah,
it may be as simple as the generated query depends simply on the number of terms in the query. It may do something interesting there. So, yeah.
our next steps is getting some documentation up, right? Specifically, I think getting some good documentation around the events that are being generated, both on the client side and the server side, and getting them documented. This demo here will be online and available in the next week. So we're currently working on our let's see. I've got a link here for you guys. Where is my document? So this is the online version of the demo. That it's going to be freshened up with some of the stuff that we've done in the last few days. But we'll keep this up to date. And so people can start playing with it, looking at it. And it has a OpenSearch behind it that will have the username and password, so people can go in there and play and look at those events. So, and then, yeah, so a little more documentation and starting to get our first couple of actual dashboards fleshed out and something that people can interact with, I think will help move the conversation along. So, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. That was fantastic. We appreciate the demo and seeing the progress on this project so far. It's exciting to see. Does anyone have any other questions for Eric, or any other questions that they'd like to bring up, or things that they've done recently? We only had one presentation today, so it might be a quick meeting, but we're welcome to open the floor.
Well, if the floor is open, let me ask a question of the people here. How many attendees do we have today? We have 16, I guess. So I wonder if any of you are using Amazon Personalize or are thinking of using Amazon Personalize together with OpenSearch.
I'm not even sure what that is, Stavros.
Huh. Okay, I should give some background. So Amazon Personalize is a service that uses machine learning techniques to improve the ranking of your search results in a personalization way. So it looks at your past events, and this is how it relates to the user behavior insights. User behavior insights is going to be integrated with Personalized so that they can see what actions people have taken on items, so that if it turns out, for example, our standard example is red dress is the standard query. And if are you a fashionista, you only buy name brands? Are you a budget shopper and you only buy things that are cheap? Do you always buy long dresses, always buy short dresses, et cetera, et cetera? This kind of thing is what the Personalized system learns from your behavior and improves the search results. So I'm wondering if anyone has been using Personalize or is thinking of using Personalize. Silence. Silence.
It is done.
Okay, so much for that.
And I'll definitely look
Oh,
into that.
what's this? Amitai Stern says, well, I am now. What does that mean?
I mean, you've sparked some curiosity in someone, which is the overarching goal of all of these community meetings. So you have done our job today, Stavros.
So Amitai, you can, I don't know if that comment was about Personalize or about something else.
Personalized. I've never used it. I don't know. So check it out.
Great. And feel free to contact us about it.
Seems like that would be the kind of thing that would be the basis for like an ad decision server or something like that. I'm curious if people are using OpenSearch as a ADS of some kind.
Yeah, so the bigger story with Personalize is that it currently is available as a plugin for OpenSearch. It is a paid service. It's not open source, so as you know, OpenSearch is open to all sorts of additions, whether they're proprietary or open source. And this is a proprietary one from Amazon, and we're working on integrating it better so that it's easier to use, especially in the managed service. But it's already available in self-managed.
Thanks, Stavros. Anyone else have something to share or questions to bring up?
Is anyone from this group here going out to Berlin?
3 of us so far. Hopefully more will show up.
What's the conference out there called again?
Boss Backstage. It's run by our friends over at Plain Shores. It's basically an open source community and project based conference. It's as a open source community manager, it's probably my favorite. One of my absolute favorite conferences. PJ brought up a good one. That's Patty, isn't it? Anyone coming to KubeCon in Paris?
No takers?
No, okay.
I wish.
I'll
I'm not
be-
gonna make it this year.
A good group of people are going over there as well. OpenSearch will also have a booth there. So if you know anyone, tell them to stop by.
Isn't our amazing Mr. Tippett presenting there or something like that? I could have swore he had a speaking slot.
Don't know.
Seems like the kind of thing I should know.
All right, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, Eric, for presenting. Thank you, everyone, for the questions and engagement. We appreciate you, and we'll see you. I don't have it scheduled yet, but March 12th should be the next. So 2 Tuesdays from today. So
Terrific.
we'll see y'all again on March 12th.
See you then.
Take care.
Yeah.
Wait.
Thank you.
No joke, Nathan. Come on.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Excellent.
lasers are good enough. Bye.
See ya.